Welcome back to the channel. Welcome in for another tier list video. Today, I'm going to be ranking each division in the NFL by how good they are as a whole of a division. I want to make that very clear from the jump before anybody gets mad. It is your division as a whole, not how good you are, how good the division as a whole is. So we got our 5 categories here: God tier, beasts, tough comp, decent, and weenie hut juniors. We're going to start with the weenie hut juniors. In my estimation, the 2 worst divisions in football. I don't think it should be a surprise to anybody. The AFC South and the NFC South. If I had to give one of the 2 divisions the edge, I would slightly lean NFC South as of right now. This is no shade at Texans fans whatsoever. I think the Texans are a really good team and are legit Super Bowl contenders in my estimation. The problem is the other 3 teams in the AFC South absolutely have been hot garbage over the last few years. The Tennessee Titans, they just had the number 1 pick in the draft. They were quite literally the worst team in football last year. Enough said there. The Colts are having a starting quarterback competition right now between Anthony Richardson and Daniel Jones, a guy who the Giants quite literally said wasn't good enough to be on their roster. That guy is competing with Anthony Richardson, and I think he might actually win the job. The Jaguars have been a massive disappointment since 2 years ago when they had that playoff win, etc. Trevor Lawrence hasn't lived up to my expectations, the expectations. Texans, good. Rest of the division, pretty much trash at this point. Same kind of premise here with Tampa Bay, except the Falcons and Panthers have some hope for me, but I actually think the Saints are the worst roster in football this year, and I think that they're going to have the number 1 pick. That's my take as of things currently standing. I haven't done a ton of scouting, so Saints fans chill out in the comments section, but I think the Saints probably have a top 5 pick in the draft. Tampa Bay doesn't quite feel like Super Bowl contender that the Texans are, but the Falcons and Panthers both feel like they stack up better than the Jags and Titans, if you were to say the next 2 best teams in the AFC South. I don't know. I don't think that there's much debate here. I think these are the clear weenie hut general junior tiers here. The decent tier, it's one team. It's one division, excuse me. The AFC East. Buffalo, obviously Josh Allen's an MVP caliber player. They're a legit Super Bowl threat. I don't think anybody would argue otherwise. And the Patriots, they feel like a playoff team this year. They're favored in 11 of their 17 games this season, so Vegas views them that way. Drake May, second year, some real good weapons on that team. They drafted Travion Henderson. They brought in Stephon Diggs. They drafted a Kyle Williams. You still have a Pop Douglas, a Hunter Henry. The defensive line, when healthy, with Christian Barmore, Milton Williams, Harold Landry, should be decent. Secondary, Gonzo, Carlton Davis, really solid. The Patriots feel good. Miami, if they could keep Tua upright for the whole season, which feels like it would be a miracle at this point, but I think that they would be fighting for a playoff spot potentially with New England. And the Jets, I think, have the potential to be better than people think if they can get Breece Hall going and have a 2-dimensional offense. The AFC East, it's decent. I wouldn't see any one of those teams on my schedule and be like, there's no way we could lose that game, as I would for some of the South teams. We look at tough comp. I think I might get some pushback here, but I'm putting the AFC North in tough comp, and I'm also going to put the NFC West. I have the AFC North over the NFC West, though. The NFC West, I think, is pretty explanatory. The Rams, they're obviously legit Super Bowl threats based on what they did last year. They gave the defending Super Bowl champion Philadelphia Eagles the toughest run of any team in the playoffs. So I think that that makes a ton of sense. Devontae Adams, Puka Nacua, Kyron Williams, Matt Stafford, a good offensive line, McVay running plays. It should be a top 5 offense in the NFL, certainly will be in the efficiency category. And then the defense, it's actually got some solid young pieces there. Jared Verse, Braden Fisk. I've heard rumors of a potential Jalen Ramsey reunion, so that would be pretty solid. The Niners, of course, were just in the Super Bowl 2 years ago. Last year, they stunk. What are they truthfully? Probably somewhere in the middle, if I had to guess. I feel like they're going to be a playoff team this year. And while I don't necessarily have Arizona or Seattle as a playoff team in my mind as things currently stand, they're teams that feel like week to week, they could reach really high levels and play up to their competition. How many times have we seen the Cardinals do that, especially with Kyler Murray? And the Seahawks, they kind of flipped a lot of their roster around, but the defense I expect to be improved. And hey, Sam Darnold was an MVP candidate for most of last season. The AFC North, I know a lot of people are going to think that this should be higher, but I just don't think we're at that point in time anymore. Baltimore obviously has one of the best rosters in all of football. Lamar Jackson's a top 3 quarterback, Derrick Henry a top 3 running back. The defense is absolutely insane. I don't know how they landed Malachi Starks and Mike Green in the draft. That still feels just unfair to me, but Baltimore going to do what Baltimore going to do. But the other 3 teams in this division, I think, well, not the Browns as much, but I think the Bengals and Steelers are maybe overrated based on what we've seen them do in recent memory. But in recent memory, they haven't been that good. The Bengals missed the playoffs the last 2 years and have had one of the worst offensive lines and defenses in that stretch. I love Joe Burrow, Jamar Chase, and T. Higgins as much as the next guy, but over the last 2 seasons, it hasn't resulted in wins. Not even enough to get to the playoffs, so I'm not going to stack them up as this really high-level elite second team in the division. They haven't earned that right over the last 2 years. In Pittsburgh, let's just assume that Aaron Rodgers is going to be their quarterback. I still think that they are a mid-level team. Mike Tomlin can get them to regular season wins, but it just never translates against the best teams or against playoff competition. They get to the playoffs every year, and it's like a second bye week at this point. And the Cleveland Browns, I mean, I don't need to pile on to Browns fans, but let's be real here. Their quarterback competition is Joe Flacco, Kenny Pickett, Shador Sanders, and Dylan Gabriel. And people expect Joe Flacco to win that job at like 500 years old. I think that that's enough said for that spot in this ranking. And then we got the beast tier. I'm putting the AFC West and the NFC East in this tier. I actually do lean AFC West over NFC East, but here's my logic for it. Both of these divisions have 2 legit Super Bowl contenders, and they also have another team that could be a playoff team if they live up to their expectation, and another team that I think is a tough out day to day. So obviously in the NFC East, the Eagles just won the Super Bowl and they played the Commanders in the NFC Championship. You got Hurts, Saquon, AJ Smitty, a great offensive line, a great defense. You got Jaden Daniels, Terry McLaurin, and much improved offensive line, a decently improved defense for Washington. Again, we know what both of these teams could be. The Dallas Cowboys, I think if Dak was healthy last year, potentially sneak into the playoffs. Again, a lot rides on Dak's health there. Their defense is okay. You have some question marks about what this team can do under Schottenheimer, but as a 3rd team in a division, they're a pretty good team. And the Giants, man, I don't like sleeping on them. That defensive line with Dexter Lawrence, Brian Burns, and now Abdul Carter is going to be a terrifying matchup no matter what their offense produces week to week, because those guys can absolutely wreck a game. In the AFC West, of course, you have the Chiefs, who have been the best team over the last 5 years. Reed, Mahomes, Kelsey, kind of enough said there. The Chargers, I expect to take a step forward now that they've got some young, exciting offensive talent. We knew Herbert and Harbaugh were going to be good, but you add in a second-year lad McConkey, Trey Harris, Omarion Hampton, an improved offensive line, and still a very solid defensive core. And then the Broncos, Bo Nix going into year 2 with Sean Payton. I would have liked for some more offensive weapons to be added, truthfully, but Evan Ingram and RJ Harvey are fine. I love their defense with the additions of Dre Greenlaw and Hufanga and Jahdae Barron in the draft. Pair that with Pat Surtain and just the great defensive line that they had all around last year with Allen, Bonito. They're going to be, I mean, a force to be reckoned with on the defensive side of the ball. And hell, even the Raiders are pretty solid, right? Geno Smith, Genty, Jacoby Myers, Bowers. It's a fine offense that could certainly compete week to week. Pete Carroll, the head coach of this team. But in the God tier category, I have the NFC North. And I don't think it's much of a debate. Obviously, Detroit and Minnesota last year finished with the 2 most wins of any team in the NFC. 2 14-plus win teams right there. Was it maybe an outlier season for Minnesota? Maybe, but maybe they're just that damn good. That Brian Flores defense is scary. They were top 4 in the NFL in sacks, and Dallas Turner gets another year in the league. Jonathan Grenard was a Pro Bowl level player, and they add Hargrave and Jonathan Allen to that defensive line. The O-line might be up there with Philly in terms of best in football after a really good offseason. They brought in Fries. They brought in the center from the Colts. His name slipping my mind right now, but somebody, Ryan Kelly, they brought him in. They drafted drafted Donovan Jackson, and they had really solid tackles too. Darrisaw will be healthy. Jefferson, Addison, Hawkinson, Aaron Jones. The big question is JJ McCarthy, but like I said in the teams I'm buying stock in video, if he's just top 15, like they'll be a playoff team. The Lions, do I worry about the loss of the coordinators? Yes, but it's still one of the most talented rosters in football. And when we're talking about the Chicago Bears, who just brought in Ben Johnson, have a #1 pick in Caleb Williams, DJ Moore, Roma Dunze, Luther Burden, Colston Loveland, DeAndre Swift, an improved offensive line, that defense that's pretty decent, or the Green Bay Packers with Matt LaFleur, Josh Jacobs, Jordan Love, Matthew Golden, who they just drafted, Romeo Doubs, Jaden Reed, a really solid offensive line. One of those teams is going to be the worst team in your division. Yeah, that's a God tier level division. These are my rankings. I feel like there should be pretty consensus. Let me know what you would change in the comment section if you would change anything. We are just a couple months out from the NFL season. If you're new to the channel and you love NFL content, make sure you hit that subscribe button. Check out some of the videos that'll pop up at the end of this video. Hit the like button. It's good for the algorithm. I appreciate your guys' support, and I will catch you next time. Peace.